So, boys, make sure you don't go like...
I was doing that last time.
So try not to breathe in too heavily. So when you talk like this, talk like, hey, hey, tell a lie, Anthony. I can't tell a lie to you. And then just back up like this. That way we can breathe like...
Okay, yeah. And when you want to...
Exactly. That's how you drink water.
I just took a sip
All right,
of
sweet.
water.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Drew. Across from me is...
We're both across from you.
Yes. Dealer's choice.
Anthony.
Landon Glenn. The Furiosa himself. So here we go. We just watched, I didn't really want to watch, to be honest. We watched BRIGHTBURN today, a movie about what if Superman was bad, but not like the DC universe currently where he's already really bad, but he was a kid and really bad. What did we think of it? I think it was a big pile of crap. What did you guys think?
I thought it was also the same thing. Really steamy crap.
Ooh, descriptive.
It brightly burned a hole in my soul.
Landon, can you get a little hotter on that mic, please?
It brightly burned a hole in my soul.
You're burning holes in me, pal. Sounds good. One thing I got to talk about, though, because you guys mentioned, are you guys big fans of horror movies or anything like that? You guys like them at all, or?
Not typically.
Not typically, Landon. What's your history with them?
I'm a very big horror fan, yeah.
So, I don't understand what the point of a horror movie is, because I feel like the movie I just watched, there were lots of long pauses of people slowly getting up, checking their phones, boring things I do at 1:09 p.m. or whatever, at a.m., and then someone either walks slowly in the background or puts a blood on the window or attacks them. I feel like every horror movie is just people going like, "Oh, there's real explanation. Oh, he didn't do it. Oh, he didn't with the and then the rest of it's just like silence, and then the rest of it is 15% jump scares. So before we even get to this movie, perhaps, and get into the depths of it and its gore and whatever, is there arts to horror movies out there? Like, give me an example of a good horror movie. You know,
I believe that a horror movie they can be good. I feel like most of them fail to do so, however. But it's when a horror movie kind of connects with that subliminal feel you get at night when you wake up and you feel like something's not right or like somebody is watching you. And that is related through a film. And you get that same sense of dread. And it's almost like this pumping adrenaline, something that you can connect with. But also you get that in-moment feel of adrenaline, like almost to the point where it's arousing. Not in a sexual way, though. I don't get off on horror movies. That's not what I'm saying.
This is an intervention, Landon Glenn. You have a problem.
But I don't know. It kind of brings forward that flight or fight scenario that everybody gets in a tense, scary moment, and you kind of run off that adrenaline, and that's typically what I find horror movies to be about. It's kind of like stimulating yourself and putting yourself in a point of being scared for the point of being entertained. It's
excitement,
right? It's like being on a roller coaster and going down a big steep downward drop. It's for that exhilarating stimulation.
Roller coasters, I'm not slowly getting a cup of coffee and then I open the coffee thing. I've never had coffee before. I put in the black stuff, probably. I press the button. The coffee slowly pours out. I pick up my coffee cup. Oh, wait. It's not full of coffee yet. I put the coffee cup back in. It's full of coffee. I pull it back. A zombie's attacking me. But in a roller coaster, I don't spend 10 minutes making a coffee and then it eats my sandwich, you know?
Well, you do. That's the thing. Because when you're on a roller coaster, you don't just immediately start going down. You have to get on that initial upward climb. Remember? When you go on a roller coaster, you hear the of you going up. And then you go down. You have to build to that climax, and that's what and I'm definitely not going to say that BRIGHTBURN did that well, because I feel like in most cases, and especially with BRIGHTBURN, they failed to do that correctly. But in a properly done horror movie, that building of tension makes the payoff even better. But yeah.
Landon, I have to say, your radio voice is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, BRIGHTBURN, I just my immediate response, but it's sighing. It's a movie. It's a bloody flip on the genre of superhero movies. It's just how I don't even know where to begin. So let's start somewhere. So
okay.
DC owns Superman, right? DC owns a property. Everyone, like even our grandmas know. Oh, Superman, he punched Nazi in the face or whatever. Our grandmas probably know that. But can DC sue whatever company made this because it's the exact same story? Because they took a story like Superman and they just did something slightly different with it. But it's like, if you're gonna flip the bloody genre on its head, why would you do it so subtly and so just like didn't do that much with it in this movie? You know, like when I see a movie, I say, if you have a gimmick, if you have an idea, you better act on that gimmick very well and sell it to me why this movie was made. You know, if you're selling me the new gimmick of Suicide Squad, you better sell it to me why it's good. You know what I mean? What do you guys think about this whole Superman element and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, so basically, what I constantly kept asking myself throughout watching this movie was, why would you even do this? Like, why is this movie a thing? Because it really is just like, okay, Superman, but it's a horror movie. So, which isn't immediately a bad idea. I just think it wasn't really enough of one thing. Like, I was kind of expecting the whole movie, or at least most of the movie, to be kind of more like the end credits, where it's like the world is like experiencing, like globally, this Superman person just wreck everything. But instead, he just like,
That's Man of Steel for you, 2013.
yeah, but like instead he kind of just terrorized a couple of his friends and family, and then it's the end of the movie.
We are our own worst enemy. Us. We're the real enemy. But if I want to see a movie about a guy flying around and killing a bunch of Americans, I could have watched Man of Steel 2013 when he was flying through skyscrapers killing millions of Americans. But because Man of Steel, Henry Cavill, he's gotten more blood on his hands than this kid ever can or will. Right?
Maybe. I mean, that's the thing. We like really didn't see much of what this movie kind of was marketed as.
And everything we saw was in the trailer.
Like, it was marketed as Superman, but what if he was evil and not a superhero? Except we didn't really see that either. Like I said, we just saw him kill like 4 people.
Right. And that's what really pissed me off. Let me just float this by you.
Here we go.
It cinematically wasn't half bad. I thought it had a little bit of a Man of Steel-ish vibe, a little dark, and that's not what I expected from James Gunn, who produced this movie, and I expected a lot more from him. He also directed and produced both of the Guardian of the Galaxy films, but it really wasn't the cinematic or editing or any of that. It was just the continuity of the whole thing was just a blur. He turns from a perfectly good boy the day before he turns 12, and then as soon as he turns 12, he turns into the actual spawn of Satan. Like, that doesn't make, there's no build, there's no like evolution to why he went from good to bad, except for some hoopla, glowing red Allah saying for him to blow up the mosque or something,
and
right? It just doesn't.
And the reason,
make sense.
maybe not the Allah, but the reason why he went crazy is superfluous, if I may use a word, because it could have been a stone that had some runic symbols on it, and he just happens to be. He just got possessed. It would have been interesting if he was because if he was like a real psychopath growing up in the world, because I think it's the sociopath. So a psychopath doesn't care about giraffes. What's a psychopath? A psychopath is.
You want to answer that?
Yeah, so a psychopath is kind of just insane.
I'm looking it up.
But a sociopath is basically just means that a person has no empathy. Like, they can't really relate to human beings, and they don't really see value in other human life.
So, like, and I have no idea. I'm looking this up on Google right now to find out this certain information. But I'm having to hit the table to adjust Anthony's mic. But, like, people grow up in this world, and they grow into / are born as sociopaths, and they have legit struggles of, like, trying to learn how to feel empathy and stuff. But this kid, it's like, I mean, just like all of us guys, am I right? Once you hit puberty, it's all about one thing: breaking jaws and taking names. Am I right, boys?
Yeah, and killing your parents.
Breaking into women's doors and
Murdering random waitresses and stalking people in their bedrooms.
And breaking their wrists the next day at school.
I will say the movie was rather relatable.
It's also, I just realized this now, that when he did his lame nerds talk, because he was giving some facts and he raised his hand in class, what a nerd. He said like wasps or like some type of breed of wasps give their babies to another breed of wasps, and they basically make those wasps raise their young and trick them, just like what happened in this movie. They tricked the humans into raising their own young, which they just did in this movie. His name was Mr. Bright. His name was Brandon Briers. Every time they said Brandon, I was like, it's Brundon from Jonah Hill. It's Talking To, whatever that guy's name is who has black hair. But it's weird because there was just nothing works in this movie, right? Like, I saw it all in the trailer, and let's just, because their movies come out like horror movies. Like, we saw a movie for like Annabelle the Conjuring crossover movie, which, I mean, all of us fans have been obviously just sitting on pins and needles for the last 10 years. So, like, guess what? The budget for Brightburn, guess how much the budget was for this movie?
80 million, maybe?
What do you think, Anthony?
I'd say probably somewhere around maybe 50 million.
It was $6 million for budget.
Excuse me?
Which is pretty crazy, although they filmed one scene in a DQ, one in a random house in Kansas, one at a school, one at a school track, a couple of fields, a couple of forests, a girl's bedroom, and that's it. But yeah, $6 million budget. It got domestic right now is 15 million, which of course it broke even, which is kind of good, which is why I think like stuff like The Crucible, I don't think the word Crucible, the Conjuring and the Annabelle movies are able to keep going. They're like, they have a budget of 3 million, they make 5 million, like, that was a successful movie, we should make another. Like, these horror movies that we just, because when we saw Brightburn, we saw about like 50 trailers beforehand. And I just think like, these are all such low budget, weird. Is there a need for these horror movies? Like, what is even going on here? But overall, like I said, it was $6 million budget. Looks pretty good. All the CGI is pretty great. I mean, you'd be surprised what like a CGI budget can get you these days. I mean, when he was floating, they probably just had wires and stuff because it wasn't that impressive. But just looking at the horror landscape right now in cinema, like what I like about horror movies, like the few I've ever seen, such as Get Out or Us, examples like that where there's a mystery. In this movie, there's no like, oh, is he becoming bad for reasons? Oh, do we know this was definitely him even though he left his logo like he does everywhere in his house? There was no mystery at all. And I think a part of the horror movie is like, is this the daughter of the person who was killed by a ghost cow in the last movie? Or is this the incarnation of the last Annabelle doll? Like, they're like and as well, like in Us or Get Out, there's clues, there's hints, there's cool little details where it's like, oh, that explains why this person did this, or that explains that was a foreshadowing to this or whatever. Because in this movie, there was that one foreshadowing I just mentioned about like the type of bee or wasp that gives its young to another bee or wasp family that adopts them and raises them as his own and tricks them. That's like maybe the one detail that was in this movie, and the rest was just like, yep, we're just gonna slowly look at people in their houses until a kid murders them for an hour and a half. I'm thanking God this movie was so short too. But I was just so bored. What did you guys? I mean, like when you guys watch normal horror movies, do you guys like? Are you on the edge of your seat? Do you ever want mystery? Do you want intrigue? What do you want from a horror movie? You know, like I think this might be a good way for me to predict what you guys might rate this movie. You know, so what do you want in a horror movie?
Okay, so as you were saying a minute ago, like the mystery aspect of horror, that's honestly more of the kind of horror that I'm usually a fan of, more of like a psychological thriller than like the whole like run around kill everybody thing. So that said, like applying that to this movie, like you said, there really was no mystery. Like what you see is what you get type thing. And you said it a minute ago, like in the trailer, like we've already seen everything in the trailer really. And, like, that's really true. Like, I was kind of expecting it to be a bit more, but really what the trailer tells you is what exactly the movie is. Like, it's just evil Superman and he kills some people.
And like that
And
trailer
so-
was just to get us in our seats to see the movie, you know?
Exactly. And so like I think like retrospectively, I think this movie might have benefited from some kind of mystery, like maybe save it until like way later in the movie that he's an alien. Like just all of a sudden he starts going nuts and killing people and you don't know why. Like the audience doesn't know why.
Yeah,
But
like-
then at the end it's like, oh, he's
Imagine
An
if
alien.
we just assume like, oh, it's a ghost probably, but it's like, what? He's an alien? We'd be like, that's the coolest twist ever. Eat your heart out, Jordan Peele, or whatever we'd say, you know? There just needs to be something, because like I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen Chainsaw Massacre. I'm not like a gore person. Even though there's some good decent stuff in this movie, but if you like gore, but just I need more from a movie, because I feel like maybe we can talk about this a little more, but I feel like we're almost done here, because like let's talk about stuff we did like. First of all, I liked how like a kid who's like 12 broke another 12-year-old's hand. They're like, he's crazy, he's dangerous, but like if you break someone's hand, like it takes a lot of force to do that, right? Like a lot. So it's like, yeah, your son has the force of like a vice grip of a steel factory. Let him off the hook. I did also like the father, because like in any horror movie, if I'm ever in my house and things start flickering, I am out the door. I'm out of there. I'm throwing crucifixes behind my shoulder. I'm throwing salt over my steps. I'm putting banana peels behind me. I'm getting out of there. But I like the dad a lot, because he was so. First of all, it's Pam's ex, so he's obviously moved on.
Mass respect.
And he was a good actor. Just the fact he's like, listen, this kid's crazy. Just they need one more thing, one more detail. They wouldn't give away one thing more in the trailer. They'd be like, maybe the dad was abusive when he was a little kid or something. That's why he was angry. But for a kid just to go angry and mean and just become terrible for no reason. Like he had good parents, but he was like, do you want me to cry about my uncle? Okay, bye. I'm going to keep eating my Rice Krispie, whatever they were called. What do they call, like, sugar rice cakes?
sugar rice puffs.
Sugar rice.
rice puffs.
I love cereal.
I think you can sum up this entire problem with the movie with just one simple thing. And it's his motivation. Why is he turning from what he should be, which is, the alter ego or the other version of Superman, into Brightburn, right? Why? In the movie portrays it as some weird aura from his spaceship pretty much possessing him to do this stuff. But, I don't think that's how it should be, because Superman, now understand, Superman's by far my least favorite superhero of all time. But
I hate the American way, too. I agree.
But at least his story is good. He is motivated to do good after his adopted father dies, right? And it should be like that, but a reflection of that on the other side, right? He shouldn't have been possessed, but instead he should have been traumatized, right? Right, maybe his father was abusive or something happened, but his mom always loved him. And that's where you find that, loving connection that he still has with her, but he is kind of outcast by the rest of society. And that's what drives him to justify his actions and become Brightburn. But when you sell out and go for this possession thing, you lose all empathy, right? There's no justification.
It's almost like not in his control. It's not his fault.
Right,
almost.
Exactly. You just kind of lose all purpose of watching.
Like he doesn't have a choice. Like
Right.
if I get cancer, then I can't change who I am.
Because if he would have chosen to be like this out of abuse or something, the mom could have been there and been like, honey, come back to me, and you could have seen that battling, conflicting, conscious within him, and you could see that Brightburn is bad, but he, it's not because he was possessed, but because he's struggling with things, right? But instead, because he is possessed in this movie, because he's possessed in this movie, there is none of that, and that's why you don't feel anything for this movie, because it's a pathetic attempt at showing some, pop outs and making us try to be
Easy there,
scared
pal. It's
of
okay.
a kid. You know what I mean?
It's a friendly movie. No pop outs here. But the gore. Let's talk about the gore. I already saw the eye thing in the trailer, but what's the guy's name from Breaking Bad? It was like Boxer or something. What's his name? I'll look it up first. Anthony, have you seen Breaking Bad?
No.
Wow. Breaking Bad. Baxter?
I have some
Badger.
things
It's
to add
Badger.
here, actually.
When I saw Breaking Bad, Badger, when that guy got his jaw like taken off because he didn't wear a seatbelt, that was just like, and just, I mean, obviously I see some pretty dark stuff normally in my day-to-day life on, the internet, obviously, but the fact that just like his jaw got and he was still alive,
Yeah, that was extremely brutal.
just put him out of his misery, dear Lord. But the fact that he was in the hospital, like, yeah, his face is, and then he died in the hospital. I assume, like,
Yeah, why not just have him? That didn't make any sense. Like, oh, he's in the hospital. No, like, he died on screen. You saw him literally die, but then the next scene shows him alive, and I don't know.
But that was so brutal. The eye thing was gross. When have you guys ever played Injustice on the first Injustice game? At one point, Anthony, it's not gonna work, okay? Anthony's
It's working now.
Oh, perfect. Anthony's trying to adjust his headphones so he can hear himself talk.
No, I have not.
In the first Injustice game, Superman at one point, an evil Superman, grabs Shazam and like lasers his eyes through Shazam's eyes. It just like in this movie when he lasers his dad's eyes into oblivion, which was pretty brutal. But the fact that like his dad was willing to be like, "This is for humanity," and then look, think of the bunnies, Lenny, and it just bounced off his head.
I did like that scene. I thought that was actually pretty cool.
It's a good thing for his character to be like, "This is for humanity," but also just to have the boy have the exact same powers as Superman, and plus flickering the power to flick lights, like just have some have his feet become Toad feet. Have something original, like nothing.
It was based off of a comic, though, right?
It was.
Yeah. Brightburn is a comic, I think. And that it's a DC movie. It's just not within the DCEU. That's why at the end they make references to Aquaman.
No, was that really a reference to Aquaman?
Yeah, they said the man underwater or the lady who can strangle people with her whip. That's obviously a reference to Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman, I guess that's one thing she's known for. Not her sword, not her shield, not her great
Not
tactics.
her badassery. It's just that whip.
Whip though. So, did you think? Another good thing I like about this movie, he tries to pull the ripcord for a lawnmower, which I always hate doing, and he like just flung it 1,000 miles away. He became super powerful. Who cares? That's cool. What was some dumb things? I love the best part. Okay, can we say on 3? Because we were all thinking the same thing. You know what I mean? The exact same thing. The favorite part of this movie. Okay,
I don't know what we're thinking.
We'll count to 3. Ready?
Let me think.
1,
Wait, I have
2,
to get
3.
Wait.
when that sheriff was this is a grisly crime. It doesn't look like a robbery.
There were some very unintentionally erotic
Sensual.
moments in here, and
So
I
sensual.
really enjoyed it actually.
So just in case you forgot, the sheriff goes into the first crime scene like, blood is a massacre. I'm 5 days from retirement. And then he's like, hey, is that a smirk over there on the window? Because apparently he can just see fog history on a window, like browser history. He goes, to make it appear.
I then had to excuse myself.
Did you?
I had to go change my pants.
There was that other weird moment where like Pam's fiance is like in bed and he has that flashback to when he like gets up from bed and like walks through the door and it becomes the Force. She's like,
I can attest that is definitely what it is like to be on LSD.
yeah, and he was like, and it's like, well, this is getting kind of weird here.
And then you look into like the cradle and you see that actually kind of scared me when like he looked at the baby and its eyes and it jumped out at you.
I had my
was
eyes
kinda
closed.
Like, oh my god.
But
that
also,
was pretty disturbing.
it was
As someone who really loves babies, that really upset me.
you do love babies. You're famously known for that.
I like to flick their noses.
But
I like to just say hi to them like it's a normal people.
I'm so well adjusted to interact with these humans. The fact that because Superman came from the sky with his cape around his baby self, as we all know.
Of course.
But the fact that is it implied that the baby from Brightburn Baby also had his cape come with him, or did she bring that blanket? Because it looks like he sleeps with the same blanket he was brought up in from the spaceship when he's 12 versus when he's a newborn. Did you notice that it was like a red blanket that had like a lot of like really thick twines through it or whatever?
Yeah, and that also seemed to be the material that made his Brightburn mask. But honestly, that mask looked like his grandma knitted it for him. He goes, "Here, honey, here's a scarf."
They're like,
"I will make this my mask."
I hate that stupid sound effect. I hate it. Sometimes they can do really good, like, kind of like blurring out the sound if there's no sound thing where it goes like, or whatever. But the fact that, like, the main sound that his ship was making was like, Mordor, land of shadow. It sounded like it sounded like it was trying to say words, and he eventually says, like, take the world.
Right, that was probably the worst, like, slogan I've ever heard. It's not even like, destroy the world or kill all the people. Just take the world.
It sounds like Pepsi's new promotional idea. Take the world. We're filling up potholes. We're taking the world for you.
Okay, since you brought it up, actually, the take the world thing I could not stop thinking about how dumb that was after, especially everything he did following that. Like, he was like, oh, I'm supposed to take the world, so I'll just slowly, very, very painstakingly just scare my aunt. And then that's taking the world. Like, if he knows at that point, like, I'm supposed to take the world, like, and he clearly doesn't actually care about any of his family, why would he not just go immediately to start just, like, massacring the entire planet?
Because it almost is like, are you going to tell the sheriff to tell my parents? You don't want to do that. The kid being like, this kid's the worst. But also the fact that, like, if he cares, because does he care about his parents finding out, or doesn't he? Because like, I guess he was angry that his dad started yelling at him. They're like, you killed Uncle whatever, I'm angry at you. And he's like, stop, and he pushes him. But like, if he cares about his parents' opinion, then why is he just act like a good kid? Like, he wants the best of both worlds, but he can't have it. It's symbolism, but
right. And two things. First of all, what the hell? Was the aunt just left alive? Is that what I'm getting? Do we remember that correct? Oh, she just left alive?
The aunt is the sole survivor.
Yeah. Like, he went there to kill her and then just ended up killing the uncle and was like, all right, guess this jaw is enough for me. Gonna go on home.
Mosey on down the lane.
And second of all, what really, really ticked my tonker. Oh, God, I forgot it.
You shouldn't have invested so much in that Tonker joke. Was the fact that the aunt was survived? She was okay?
No. I can't continue. I'll think of it.
Also, if I was like Badger / the uncle and I found like my nephew in the closet, he remembers. The fact he was like, oh, what the hell, kid? What are you doing? I mean, it's pretty weird to find your nephew, but if he's like family, I mean, he's 12. He should know better. If he was 6, I'd probably give him a bigger break. But he's like, I'm gonna go. I mean, he's an adopted kid. Like, would you be that hard on him? Like, if I found my nephew who's 6 currently, which is a little bit different, let's be honest, and he was in my closet, I'd be like, hey, man, what are you doing? I don't know. I thought it was kind of tough to be like, oh, how dare you? But what were you say you remembered?
And no, to respond to that, if I found my nephew in my closet where my wife had just been asleep and he was wearing a mask like that, I would immediately call the police.
That's
Something
fair.
is awry in that household. And what I was thinking is, let's just make this very clear. If Superman's only weakness is kryptonite, and I think it's safe to assume that, then it's also safe to assume that it is similar that Brightburn's only weakness is kryptonite. So my question is, why the hell is his spaceship made of kryptonite?
That's a very good question. Because it's the kind of thing I've been watching the trailers of like, okay, if this is the Superman, what's his kryptonite equivalent? It's like, it is love. It wasn't that. It was like literally just a ship.
Yeah, his ship. That's she realizes it because he cuts it earlier on, and he cuts his hand on his ship when he falls on top of it, and so she's like, oh, "I must kill him with his own ship," and that just it doesn't make any sense.
And if she hadn't broken off that fragment so conveniently, she would have been like, okay, how do I angle this so I can push the kid onto the ship and break his neck somehow?
Right.
Because there's no other ways. She'd been like, okay, hey, son, listen, okay, all you need to do is to angle yourself just a little bit that way.
Yeah,
Look over
come
there.
throw yourself on a sharp piece of this ship.
But
Say it right there.
I really liked when she like finally confronted him with the spear in his back pocket, and she was like, listen, it's gonna be okay. I know you. There's good in you. I literally think at least like 2 notes from the Man of Steel. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, that was the
Dun,
only time where you
dun.
actually felt something. You felt like, okay, maybe there's more to this.
I didn't
and then
think-
it just went away.
I didn't think Jack squat. I think he's crazy.
Okay, so the whole, like, I know there's good in you thing, she kept saying that.
But you don't
And,
believe it.
well, yeah, obviously you don't believe it because it's not true, because he's literally just possessed by this ship thing. But, like, that idea that, like, there's good in him is what I really wished that the movie had actually developed.
And question.
Because I think what's so compelling about, like, the real Superman is that he does have the choice to be evil, but he doesn't be.
like he could act like
so
Zod
it's like, yeah,
and be like,
so
oh,
it's
I'm the
like-
best. I am superior, which he actually says.
So it's like you have this movie, and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking it's gonna be okay, same situation. He can either be good or evil, but for some reason, this kid chooses to be evil.
Right.
But it's like, oh, right off the bat, he's just possessed or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, like, going into, like, making this a full-on horror movie kind of limited it to what it could actually be.
It could have been like a cool commentary on Superman, or just like, because like, you know, there's also a thing like he was adopted. He, you know, isn't the natural born son of these 2 children. So they could have had that good discussion, because it's also weird to appropriate like a psychopath who happens to be adopted to like a superhero who has superpowers and vulnerability. But the fact that they should have gone for that whole, because if this movie wouldn't have any mystery to it, it would have been cool if it had a type of struggle, which is another cool thing like that could be the crux of a horror movie like Us or Get Out. Like there's a struggle like in Us, it's like, how do we survive with this family? What's going on? But in this movie, it's just like, this person is evil due to hormones and a glowing ship that sounds like EDM.
Yeah, I mean that's what I said a little while ago. I think
Did you? Are you sure?
I went on like a 5-minute rant. Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, the biggest problem with this movie is that it just simply chose possession over actual emotion, and it just made us all disinterested. And you need to stop referencing Us as a good movie.
Really?
That movie was horrendous.
Really?
Me and Anthony saw it together.
Did you
So
know?
I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but I also agree with that.
I get you. So just so like we said, like I thought it was a great moment when she talked to him and revealed that like he came from the stars and stuff. Because just imagine if you were going through puberty like we all did, you know, and your parents told you that you came from a spaceship. I'd be like,
And then you have laser eyes.
first of all, lady,
Laser eyes.
I got more than laser eyes, if you know what I mean. But I loved it when he was like, you lied to me this whole time. Because I don't know if they said specifically, hey, son, you are my biological offspring. I don't know if she said that directly to him every day before she was soon
Like, they
asleep.
weren't exactly lying when they said we adopted you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
We adopted you from the spaceship. We have dual custody. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
the fact that it's because like Superman and Man of Steel, like he had an upbringing of good country American folks. And
Just like Brightburn did.
yeah, and at one point, he always knew he was different, like Clark Kent always did when he like started having like even before puberty, you could like see people's faces and shirts and stuff, which would be the worst thing. You know what I mean? But the fact, but also like, it's a cool thing to think about. Like if Superman had that revealed to him, like you lied to me this whole time, I'm not actually your son. There's a great moment in Man of Steel where it's like, can I just keep pretending I'm your son? And then Kevin Costner, like only Kevin Costner can say, but you are my son, you know? But this Brightburn kid's like, you lied to me, and just starts flip. Like, it's funny because, like, he has super strength, but he goes into the house and just starts knocking over family photos, like, dude, you can lift a truck, but you just go like, these family photos don't mean anything anymore.
I think that speaks volumes to the quality of parenting between Kevin Costner and Pam's ex.
That is not her real name.
What?
You just made it up, didn't you?
Who?
Pam Sex?
I said Pam's ex.
Oh,
I can't remember his name from the show.
Pam's ex.
I can't remember the actor's name or his character's name.
Pam's ex-fiance, that's right. But
Pam's ex.
I don't think there's too much left to talk about. I feel like this was just overall a real missed opportunity and shame, and just it's shameful. But like it's just a shame that they didn't go for that. You know?
Would you give it like 1 out of 10?
On the mic. On the mic.
Just one last random thing, before we kind of do the whatever rating or whatever. I think another thing that I kind of was like, wait a second, frequently throughout the movie was like, who the heck are we supposed to be rooting for here? Like, do we want, because like at the very end when freaking Billie Eilish song starts playing, it almost feels like the movie wants you to be like, yeah, he's gonna go destroy the world.
Good for him.
And I'm like, wait a second, were we supposed to be rooting for the humans or just his mom individually or just him? But it's like, it's really none of them. So I'm just like, we're just watching this happen.
And for choices
and I don't know why anybody would care.
For choices to happen where like the dad is like tries to kill his own son, which is pretty dark. But the fact that he like didn't try like to give him one last try, just saying, "Son, I love you," or like we said, like there's like you said, there's no real hero to be like, is Badger? Is it the uncle the real hero of the story because he tried to do his best to get away? Or
well, I mean, in like most horror movies, even if the good guys don't win, there is still some kind of like resolution to where like there's still hope. You know what I mean? Like take The Quiet Place, A Quiet Place, right? Great movie. And did the good guys win? No, they didn't win, right? You know, they found a way to kill the monsters, but they were not out of peril. And John Krasinski, that beautiful man, he died.
so beautiful,
right?
Weakness? Question mark? Question mark? Question mark? Underline? Sound? Question mark? Question mark? That movie is truly a masterpiece.
Truly, right? And so, it's set up like hope, right, for somebody to do the right thing and beat out the bad, right? But it did it in the right way. But in Brightburn, you don't see that, right? It kills every main character that we ever meet except for the ant, but the ant has no knowledge of how to defeat it, right? Of how to defeat Brightburn. It would have been more interesting if somehow the ant was tied back in, or maybe the mom lived, so that there's some inkling of hope that, you know, somebody understands that it's that metal from that spaceship that is the way to kill him. You know what I mean? Just
so like to have some kind of hope or kind of like reveal that like they can all work
Right.
together and like, oh, we work together and this is how you kill him.
because nobody wants to just see the end of a movie where like random unstoppable beast destroys world.
Because
Right?
that's just boring. Because
Right.
because some people complain about like most like DC and Marvel movies, it's just like a bunch of sci-fi things slamming against each other and looking all like $1,000 as, you know, a doomsday fights Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman. It just looks like gray smoke. And I can feel the same way about these horror movies where like I don't want to see Chucky go on a 30-minute rampage at the end just for him to get defeated by the one kid left standing who's probably gonna die of hepatitis poisoning in 3 years. You know,
Oh my gosh. Right, you're right.
life is brutal, man.
But you also don't want to see him just go on a brutal rampage and never be stopped, right? And then the movie end like that. You want to see you don't have to see it, but you want there to be some kind of thought that, hey, maybe somebody can stop him and hear how it might happen, but we're not going to tell you.
But like in this movie, there's like no hope. There's like,
Exactly.
is he
There's
going
no
to become
hope.
a good person at the end? No.
No, he's going to take the world.
But
Yeah, like anything you could imagine that would happen after the end of this movie is probably exactly what would happen. And anything that you could imagine that would happen from the trailers is exactly what happens
Yeah.
in the movie.
there are some weird shattered families from this movie. There's a little girl this little girl has her hand snapped, just lost her mom. Maybe she'll get adopted by the ants. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a small inkling where I was actually interested in that short bit of storyline when he went back to her and she was like, "You can't be here. I'm not supposed to talk to you." And definitely flashbacks from my past, but that's neither here nor there. But
You have climbed through too many windows, I'm afraid.
Yeah, exactly. And and it would have been interesting for him to, like, I don't know, have more of a story with her and not just be like, "I'll deal with her," and
Or
then
like
rip his mom apart, but
or like love her and then she rejects him or something, you know?
right, or love her and she likes him back, right? That would have been honestly, I would have been more happy with that. It still would have been weird and kind of perverted because they're 12 years old, but it would have been more interesting than she literally never coming up again.
Yeah, wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
I just remembered that she never comes up again.
Anthony just so dramatically turned the mic. I thought he was about to kiss Landon on the lips. What are you saying, Anthony?
Like, I actually totally forgot about that. But, like, he does say, like, "Oh, yeah, I'll deal with your mom," kind of implying that he's like, "I'll be back, though, after I get rid of your mom."
And we can, like,
But it's
kiss.
like, oh, wait a second.
Never shows back up.
That plot thread went nowhere.
He gave her flowers. Like, you think something's gonna be there, and it doesn't.
He's the worst. He says, listen, babe, we'll be right back after I kill your mom. Here's some flowers. He leaves, never comes back. Wow. Ultimate nice guy.
Sorry, I forgot I had to kill everybody else, too.
So yeah, it's weird for him to learn, like, take the world and, like, I'm going to kill 7 farmers first. But what else is bad in this movie? That sheriff was my favorite. Because, like, it looks like they just took all these crime scenes on just, like, very basic Polaroids. You notice that, like, the picture's like, crime scene photo here, crime scene photo here. Oh, my gosh. It's the same very distinctive symbol. What? But overall, like I said, I feel like this is just kind of wasted opportunity. Before we get into final verdict here, on Rotten Tomatoes, BRIGHTBURN 2019, in case you're wondering, got a 57% left, I don't know what that means, and 68% audience score. So 57 tomato meter and a 68% audience score. I think this is pretty much like a 5 for me, because like it's almost like if it's not like a train wreck,
5%.
if it's not a train wreck that's funny, then like what's the point of making anything at all? You know, I thought it was just wasteful. So I give it like a 5 out of 10. I don't even care. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I'd probably leave it at a 5 as well, just because it's so middle of the road and not really super bad to where you can kind of like laugh. But
At least
it's
do
also
something.
not really super interesting at all either.
Have
So
some
I'd
more
say
cereal.
yeah. So I'd say a 5 pretty much sums it up. Maybe a 4, I don't know.
Landon, final verdict. What do you think?
I definitely give it probably a 5, and I think the only thing stopping me from giving it like a 4 is that it made me laugh once.
When did it make you laugh, Landon?
You know, when the uncle was in the car and he was trying to turn back on his car. We all laughed. I heard all of us laugh together.
I remember.
And he tried to turn on the car, and the lights flicker on, and there was Brightburn. And he goes, oh, bleep, bleep, right? And then he tries to do it again, and it happens again. He goes, oh, no.
No. He goes Shia LaBeouf on it.
Yeah, that was actually funny.
So at least like I watched movies like R-rated movies with my sister. Like I don't know if you guys heard the movie Widows or whatever, where it's like we're women and we're gonna rob a bank. Or I didn't watch it. I wasn't paying attention. But like the fact that I can laugh when someone's getting tortured or someone gets headshotted really funnily. But like in these horror movies, I can laugh at some of the people being idiots and stuff. But overall, yeah, who cares? But sweet, I had a fun time talking about this with you guys though.
Thanks so much, Drew.
So did I.
Oh, Anthony, thank you. I appreciate it. But I think it wraps up for this cast at least. I'm down for seeing anything that's less than horrifying with you guys next if you want to talk about that. I'm Drew Johnson.
I'm Landon Glenn.
I'm Anthony Petraglio.
And I regret nothing.